everybody. Good evening.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy hump day. So, yes, we have been traveling again. Just got back from a trip to New York for Laurie's father's 75th birthday.
We can talk about it now because before it was a surprise and you never know who's going to watch or listen. Or
That's for sure.
Something like that. So,
yeah, it was a surprise birthday party for him and also a few other things. We had a graduation party for your cousin's
a dual
sons.
graduation party.
One from high school, one from college.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That was on Saturday night. And then Sunday it was disguised as a golf outing for the guys for Laurie's dad's.
I mean, you guys
birthday.
golfed, so it was still, you guys still did
if
that.
you could call it that. I haven't golfed in 20 years and kind of got roped into hitting some balls, but
well, they were short a person, so
they were short a person. One of their people didn't show up, so they had to force them that was short a person, and so I borrowed some clubs, went out and did my best.
Yeah, I heard you ripped it up pretty good.
Good evening, Scott. Not driving tonight. Hey. So you can actually see our beautiful faces tonight.
Isn't it wonderful?
Yeah. So after 20 years of not hitting a golf ball, we were playing best ball or 4-man scramble, and actually had a few balls that I hit that we used. So
good.
Say something. Yeah. When I got a hold of a ball and hit it straight, which was rare, it was probably the longest drive on my team. But
all I know is that my uncle came up to me and told me that you really ripped up the course.
Oh, I did that for sure. There were a number of divots that I was having to fill. But anyway,
yeah,
the subject that I've got for tonight is Newark Liberty Airport.
Okay.
And talking about our experience there. Because if you've been following the news, you've probably seen all the reports of delayed flights and canceled flights and all the other things going on in and out of Newark Liberty. And, this all came up after we booked our tickets. So we were a little bit concerned as to what would happen. And Laurie's aunt and uncle flew in from Florida on Thursday.
Yeah, the same day my dad did.
And
they had like an 11 o'clock flight or something, and they were delayed until like 4 or something.
Yeah, so quite a few hours. What does Scott say here? August will be 10 years since I played golf. Gave my clubs to one of my nephews 3 years ago. Wow.
We sold your clubs 8 years ago?
Yeah, when we moved to North Carolina, we had a yard sale and sold everything. I guess we sold your clubs too.
Mm-hmm.
So you used to play
we did a
little bit of golf.
A little bit. I used to play with my mom. We used to do par threes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Mainly.
I mean, I started playing golf with a bunch of guys at work. They would go out after work and play these executive course,
Although I did play Rotella once, where you played.
Oh, yeah?
Once.
I will say, we'll get back to Newark Liberty in a moment. But yeah, I will say that I was told that is supposedly the 5th most beautiful golf course in the state of New York. You got something on your eye there. I think
is that why you keep looking at me?
Yeah, I think it's a piece of the flaking off of your cup there. You got it.
I got it. Okay, thank you.
And it was a pretty course, and there were some very interesting and hilly holes. So
hilly holes.
trying to remember what you called. Yeah, it's a hole.
So we had a little fun story about that, because as we were saying, it was a surprise party for my dad. And so we had balloons in the car, and we had just picked him up, and we were getting ready to go over. And part of the group was on the hole by the bunker.
Yeah.
part of the group was on the one hole by the road, and the other group was on the other side of the road, on the road side.
So we were like on. We had 3 groups of 4, and so ours was the middle group, and I believe we were on hole 9, which was coming back up to the clubhouse, and then the first group was on hole 10.
Mm-hmm.
So we were like right there when they were
right.
we're pulling up, and it's like, oh, well.
My sister-in-law was like, oh, hey, there's part of the group. Where's my camera? And she's got her blinker on, and she's stopping because we were going to make a left. And I was like, keep going, keep going. And she goes, wait, what? And I go, keep going. And she goes, well, what are we going to do now? And I'm like, I don't know, but just keep going. Because they were literally right there.
Yeah.
We're going to blow it like an hour before the party. So.
Yeah, I mean, when we were coming up the 9th hole, I'm like, oh, I wonder if they're setting up for the party yet. Hope nobody sees them.
Yeah.
And nobody did. We were all focused on golf.
Yeah, it worked out pretty good. But
yeah. Anyway, so back to Newark. So your aunt and uncle got delayed like 5 hours, I guess, on Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They said it was terrible.
So yeah, I mean, there's nothing worse than being stuck in an airport. Oh, your flight's delayed. Your flight's delayed.
Looks like
and then finally getting to go hours and hours after you're supposed to, not to mention the folks on the other end that are trying to pick you up. So
yeah, I mean, we were lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, other than the 30-mile-an-hour winds we experienced.
Yeah, I mean, the winds coming into Newark were a little bit.
I've never experienced that before. That was we were like this.
I've had worse flights. I didn't think it
coming in like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
it was kind of rough, a little bit. We were getting some wind shear, so we were, floating back and forth. But I definitely had worse weather on a plane for me. I've had much bumpier rides than that, but it was still kind of rough.
Oh, I went just landing, not necessarily the ride was fine.
Yeah,
it was coming in for landing with 30-mile-an-hour crosswinds.
Yeah,
that was
the crosswinds is what did it.
Yeah,
because
and we brought a grandson with us, Cameron, and he was like. Like he didn't really know what to do. I was like, it's okay, buddy. I got you.
Yeah. But anyway, we finally got on the ground, get into Newark, and what's the first thing a lot of people do when they get off an airplane? They look for a bathroom.
That was okay, because we were yeah.
And first bathroom we come to is closed. Like, well, crap. Second one we come to is some kind of little porta-johns they got inside the building, and there was a line 20 people long
in the middle. Yeah.
And so we're like, all right, well, let's go on to the exit, and we'll find another one, I'm sure. And well, we got to go down 2 levels to get to the exit level, and there were escalators broken, out of order. And it was like, what in the world? It's like there was so much stuff broken down in that airport. It was ridiculous.
The fast lane where you walk on the what is that called?
The people mover.
The
people movers. Yeah,
that wasn't working either.
Scott said we got whipped around landing in Las Vegas.
No.
So anyway, finally get down a level. Find some bathrooms, and they're like 2 stalls or something, or at least the men's was, and more broken escalators, and it's like, wow.
I mean, we found the escalator.
Yeah,
was working.
We found them, but still, it was like for a big airport like that, you'd think that they'd keep stuff working a little bit better.
Well, they're having issues there. That's the whole
obviously,
the whole
but
point.
I mean, we had no issues with our flights, which is what gets all the news. But the airport itself was just kind of
needs some TLC.
Needs some TLC for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And
I can't imagine that. Like they don't make any money.
Well, I'm sure.
Like, what do they do with all their money?
Yeah. Don't know,
And
but
then on the way back, you had to go to the bathroom,
oh
and
gosh,
there was no bathroom. You had to go
yeah.
a different level because the
I mean,
men's bathroom was closed off.
we're leaving. Same escalators are broken, and this is Tuesday, so
Mhm.
there was plenty of time for if there are if they do have maintenance there, plenty of that time for them to get something done. And escalators were still broken. I go into
We go to the bathroom,
I
and some guy was like, "Oh, no men's room."
yeah, we try to go to another bathroom, a different one, and well, the women's restroom is fine. Men's is shut down. I was like, oh, what in the world? So I go back down a level to find a little bathroom, and it's tiny, and there's a line. And so, yeah, it was definitely an experience in Newark.
One thing I will say that they did different there is they finally have a pre-TSA line, because they
Yeah.
didn't the last time.
The last time we flew in
just
there,
in the line.
the TSA pre-check line was closed, and I think that may have been because it was.
I didn't think they had one, but they did this time. And
Yeah, I don't recall. I know that one time that we got stuck in West Palm, we had a later flight, or it got delayed. It was like 9 p.m. or something, and we tried to go through. The TSA pre-check line was shut down then.
oh, that's because of the
Yeah.
time.
Right.
Yeah. But I remember going to
So-
Newark Airport, and we were in the general line.
Right. So if you got TSA pre-check,
Or maybe you weren't with me. I don't know. You
mm,
don't always go to New York when I go, so
sometimes,
yeah.
depends on what's going on. But
Yeah. But it's a huge airport.
anyway, yeah, I mean it is a big. It's got what, 3 terminals, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know when we were getting dropped off, it was like, oh, we got to figure out where to go, and it's like they had an A, B, and C, and our flight was on B,
Mm-hmm.
but then B split, and you had an upper level B and a lower level B.
Yeah.
And we just followed it. We weren't checking any bags, so we didn't really have to. We just
No, we had to go up to A.
we had to go up to A to get to the gates. But yeah, so it was an interesting time.
We were very fortunate that we were not delayed.
Yep.
There was no
In
issues
or
for us.
out.
We did circle the airport quite a bit on the way in.
Yeah, and we still landed early, I think, though.
Yeah, I
So,
think we were early both times. But I think Allegiant does that, though. They schedule so much time so that they can be
So
on
they can
time,
be
I
on
think,
time,
because
I
they're
guess.
always late.
yeah,
That's just
'Cause,
my
I mean,
opinion.
it's only an hour and a half flight
Oh, if that.
from
Yeah, I think it was
from
like
Asheville to
an hour.
Newark.
Yeah.
So, or an hour and 19 minutes, I think, is what our
Yeah.
flight back was.
No, I've never flown into Buffalo.
Yeah, I've never been to Buffalo
I wonder.
or Niagara Falls.
I wonder if my nephew has, because he went to school up there,
Hmm.
and I think he was close to Buffalo. I'll see what I can find out for you, Scott.
Summer would be the time to do it, I guess.
Yeah, that'd be a fun trip.
Yeah.
Never been there. Yeah. So all of the things, like I said, I don't know what happened with my aunt and uncle on their way out.
Yeah.
Don't
know why they were delayed or anything.
Yeah. But we were very fortunate.
So Scott's asking, how is Allegiant? We fly Allegiant a lot.
We do.
Because Asheville is like a hub for Allegiant. So if we're flying to Florida, it's probably going to be on Allegiant.
Mm-hmm. And they
New
go
York,
direct.
And they go direct.
Oh,
so
hello, life is good. Woohoo.
Yeah,
we were just asked about Allegiant. I have a love-hate relationship with Allegiant.
Yeah.
The love part comes from there's a lot of direct flights.
There are.
The hate relationship is just because you
pay for every single little thing.
They nickel dime you.
They do.
You're stuffed in like sardines.
Yeah.
And they just don't do anything for you.
If you want a carry-on bag,
you
got to
pay
for it
now.
Of course, the check bag you got to pay for.
Seats. Which now
I mean, the flights are cheap,
all
but
of
then
that
you got to
stuff is
select your
getting a little
seats,
more
and
common now.
you pay more for
Mm-hmm.
any seat. You know, there's
And
an additional charge just to have a seat on the plane.
although, and this might be taboo, but I have to bring it up. Like, so they charge so much money for exit row seats.
Yeah.
And for me, in my brain, all I think about is you're going to make somebody pay for seats to potentially save my life. Like, and what if nobody wants to pay for it? Nobody's in the seats, and then you have nobody, in the exit row that's going to help save your life if something happens.
Somebody's going to pay for it.
Right, because
that extra leg room.
Because they want the extra leg room. They don't give a crap if anything happens and they got to save your life.
Used to be you just had to know to select the right row, and then they figured that out, that people were gaming the system that way. And let's see, Life is Good Today says, we have flown Allegiant. One of my cons is they don't always have flights going out on the day that we need them. Yes,
agreed.
That is absolutely true, and that's why sometimes we'll fly out 2 days before a cruise,
right?
Because that's the only time you can fly.
My dad prefers us to go into West Palm, and they only fly like Thursday and Sunday or something.
Right. So if we have a Saturday cruise, we're flying in 2 days early, and then we got to wait a day to fly back. So
yeah.
So that is another con. And of course, if you've ever flown Allegiant, you know that that their beverage service is not free.
You don't get anything.
You don't get anything. You want coffee, tea, water, soda.
Which here's another question. Okay, you guys ready? Since nobody's talking about the exit rows and there's no chatter about it. But what about the services for purchase, right? Oh, would you like to purchase something? Right? Nobody purchased it. So how long does it sit?
Oh.
Do they get things purposely that have so many preservatives in them that they don't go bad?
I'll say this much.
I don't know.
Their flight attendants have a pretty easy job because they're done with beverage service in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, because nobody buys anything.
Nobody buys anything.
Yeah.
It's just like, oop, they take the carts down the aisle and boom, they're done.
All they do is they walk back and forth a couple times to some garbage bags, and that's it.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Nothing is free, like you said, nickel and dime you. Yeah, they give you cheap rates, cheap flights, but
you think they do, but by the time you're at the end, it's not always better. It's close.
Yeah,
it's close.
I mean, it depends on what you're doing. I think if you're taking a quick trip where you can have a backpack or something. And don't pay for a check or a carry-on bag,
and just have the personal
just sit
item
wherever. Then without selecting your seats, because are you paying for a seat or are you paying to select a seat?
You're paying to select one, I think.
Okay, so if you just take whatever they give you, let's see. They don't have an overweight bag. Okay, so if your bag goes over your 50-pound limit or whatever, then
I did not know that.
Out of luck. I didn't know that either.
Yeah, because we weigh our stuff, so we make sure that we're underweight.
We got a portable, one of those little lift scales that we can weigh our bags with before we go to the airport.
Yeah, it was like what, $15? I think it was. Yeah,
some cheap thing on Amazon I bought 15 years ago, and it's still working. So, don't normally have a problem with that.
No.
If we got too much stuff, it gets shoved in one of our carry-ons. So or at least the heavy stuff. That's the thing. It's like, okay, this is too heavy. We'll put the heavy stuff in the carry-on or the backpack or purse or whatever, and then we'll put everything else, all the lighter stuff in the check bag.
Yeah.
So.
And so the only time that they've ever changed our flight was when we were flying on a Friday for a cruise, and they stopped flying on Friday and they canceled the flight. Remember?
Yeah. So
we ended up going into Fort Lauderdale, and it was more expensive, but they gave it, they did it for the same price. So that was nice.
And I will say that the time that we had the issue with the flight, flying back home from a cruise from West Palm, um, they just kept delaying it. It was supposed to be like a what was it, like a 6:30 flight or something, and then
Yeah.
it got bumped to 8:30, and then
Oh, we
9:30.
have that flight when we come back next time.
Yeah, and then we're sitting there in the terminal at 11, and the flight finally arrives from Asheville, I guess.
And the co-pilot called out because of
And
fatigue.
yeah, the co-pilot uh, claimed fatigue, and so they canceled the flight out. And they didn't tell us that until like after 11 o'clock at night.
Oh yeah.
And they just said, "Come back in the morning." Like, wait a minute.
They,
What do you
they,
mean
they
come
said
back
to
in the
look
morning?
for emails too.
Yeah, look for emails. You
Mm.
should have a flight out in the morning. And it's like, okay.
That was
Wait a minute. You're just going to abandon us till tomorrow morning.
yeah.
I mean, we were completely on our own. I'd never experienced that before.
And I will say, so if you don't have travel insurance, and I know that's talked about a lot, especially with travel bloggers, it is worth it to have because they canceled the flight, they reimbursed us for that, or for our hospital or for our hotel stay, because we had to find our own place to stay, and then we had to get
take an Uber
transportation
both ways
there and back, and the insurance reimbursed us for all of that, which was really cool. So. And I will say Legion gave us $75 a piece.
Okay.
I mean, so something.
Legion did give us something after the fact.
But not to cover the yeah, we didn't get it that day. It was something that you had to like jump through some hoops to get it, but we did we did get it.
So yeah, if you don't have travel insurance, that's always a good thing. I mean, that's one of the first things that we heard when we started looking into doing more traveling. Everyone was recommending insurance.
Mm-hmm.
I can't talk about all the insurances out there. Only a thing I can talk about is the one that we have, which is Allianz. And
we've only had to use it once.
Yeah, we buy an annual policy.
We do.
Because of our travel schedule. And we've only had to use it once, but when we did have to use it, they covered everything.
Quickly,
too.
Yeah. It was not, it was very, very easy to do. Although I haven't in the last couple trips, but I do have a sheet, like the declaration sheet, that I take with me with all the numbers and stuff like that. So,
and I think the one time we did have the claim, the money that we got back from them basically was very close to what we paid for the year.
Yeah.
Or at least that first year.
Yeah.
I think we've
doubled it now.
Yeah, we've increased some of our coverages because
we travel more.
We travel more, and we've got a lot more gear, expensive gear that we take with us. So.
And Scott said
Scott seconds that on Allianz. So. We don't buy the cruise line insurance. We don't buy single trip insurance. When we're traveling.
And the base plan for the annual that we got was like $240 for both, total for both
year.
of us for a year.
So,
for us, we thought that was worth it.
Yeah, life is good. They said they've never gotten insurance, but have heard good things about them. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the only thing we can say is that the one time we had to use it, but things could have been different if we didn't want to wait it out. Right. So it's not necessarily a dilemma, but that is the bad side, is that you're sitting there and you're waiting and waiting and waiting. But if you choose to leave, you're probably not going to get reimbursed.
Right.
Because if that does end up going.
Yeah. And that's only one of the things that a travel insurance will cover.
Oh,
we're kind of going on off topic here, but might as well dig into it while we're talking about it, because interruption of travel is one of the things that's covered. Mm-hmm. Theft or loss of your personal items is covered to some degree, depending on how much coverage you have. And then medical, which was pretty much the biggest thing that we thought about, was that you're in a foreign country, you get in an accident, break a leg. You
just never know.
You never know what's going to happen. How's that going to be paid for? Or you're on a cruise ship and you you have something happen that's not the fault of the cruise ship and they can charge you for it. Those medical things like that, or like our niece,
Yes.
my brother and sister-in-law and their kids went to St. Kitts back last year, and our niece has a congenital birth defect that needs a lot of medical care, and she had developed some type of um, bacterial infection or a virus or something while she was in St. Kitts, and she had to be medically evacuated back to Miami. And luckily, they had travel insurance that covered the expense of that, very expensive evacuation flight. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, all of those things are things to think about. Um, let's see. We've never had to make a claim, so it's good to hear that they'll pay. Yes. I don't know who my brother and sister-in-law had for their insurance, but it covered their probably $50,000 medical evacuation flight because
Yeah.
they had to have,
Yeah.
flown on a private jet or whatever it was from St. Kitts to Miami with medical staff on board to get her to
But not
Children's
everybody
Hospital
went.
there.
So I'm not sure if
yeah,
it covered everybody.
it did not cover. I
The
mean,
particular flight.
my brother and their 3 other kids
Mm-hmm.
were on a separate flight later.
Right.
But
Right. Which I think would have been covered, but not.
right.
Yeah.
So.
Or maybe it was a small plane they could only get to.
No.
I don't know. But regardless,
probably
yes,
covers who has the medical emergency,
right?
And
so it's worth
that type of thing. But
yeah, it's definitely worth looking into if somebody's on the fence or nobody, you've never looked into it before.
Yeah.
Something definitely good to check.
And especially if you travel frequently,
Mm-hmm.
which of course we do.
Yeah.
But
I kind of like talking about the airlines though, because I'd like to bring something up. This is happening. So, a lot of times I go through the actual company. So like Americans or Allegiant or, whatever. But this particular time when I'm taking a trip to Maine in August and I went through Expedia, which I don't always do.
Okay.
But because of the trip, I was looking at different multi-city flights and there was a lot to look at. And so I wanted to see everything. I didn't want to just go to one, I looked there too, but to make sure that the prices were about the same, and they were. So we got this flight, and 3 times now since we booked it, it's changed.
3 times.
Yep. Huh? Originally, it was like a 7:00 flight. Then they changed it to like a 9:00 flight, and now it's an 8:00 flight. And so I keep getting all these emails that your flight has changed. Your flight has changed. Your flight has changed. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's something that happens often.
Yeah.
And why they change.
If you guys have any advice on how to get the best deals on airline tickets, let us know in the chat.
It used to be that you do it on a certain day.
Right.
But so many people knew that. So is that still the case? And I will say we are flying Monday to Monday. And so I don't know if that makes a difference too, because they weren't as expensive as I expected them to be.
Okay.
Round trip. And then we went to 2 different airports. So of course that was a little more money.
You're right. So it's not really round trip. And
right.
So that's like 2 individual flights or standalone flights. One-way flights.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of that, I heard something in the past week about people using AI to help get the best rates on flights.
Huh.
I was like, that's interesting. So basically,
AI does all the work.
Go on ChatGPT and say, hey, how can I get the best rates for a flight from here to here on this date?
I should check that out because we do have to book a flight for September.
Okay.
And so I will do what I normally do, and I will go to AI and see, and I'll get back to you guys when we actually.
And I mean, maybe AI will say, hey, you want to try to book this on this date.
Right. That's exactly
And
what I was thinking. So we'll see.
based on historical data, this date would be the best time for you to try to book this flight. I don't know. Let's see. Scott says, me and Regina have only flew once each in the 90s up until last November. We've flew twice since then. Okay.
All right.
And we have to book a flight for April 2026. Maybe AI can help out.
Yeah, let us know.
Maybe they can.
I actually, so a couple days ago, I don't remember when it was. Could have been up to a week ago. I finally went looking for Amsterdam flights, but they don't go out that far yet.
Yeah.
So
Not quite yet.
I was trying to help with the budgeting, but I can't get anything like what to budget or how many miles it's going to be. So, and how much money I have to spend to make sure I get it.
Yep.
But
you never know. I mean, there's we've talked about AI a little bit here.
It only went out to April.
It's very possible that, with a plethora of data that's available to the different AI platforms, you could find one that could get you the best time and way to book a flight. So
yeah. So if any of you guys come back and have some fun playing with it, I'd imagine that Corey or I would probably play with it more than you guys would. But if you do check it out and let us know.
Yeah.
See, yeah.
Starting to dig a little bit more into AI, trying to figure out how to get things done easier and more efficiently. But
he actually even made a song for my dad for his birthday.
Yeah, I did. I pulled out my Suno app on my phone, and
one of our friends' fathers, something happened.
Yeah. Get messages.
Sorry.
Coming in. We've got a friend whose father had an accident, and so,
you did see what I didn't see what happened.
I think he fell again, and so friend has to
we're
drive over to a neighboring state to see him. So anyway, let's see what else we got. Anything else about Newark?
About Newark
or Newark Airport? I mean, I will tell you this. I expected it's probably where we were coming from that had an effect on that. But traffic in and out of Newark Airport was surprisingly light, I'll say. I've been to a lot of places.
Yes.
A lot of places where you try to get into an airport, especially anytime around rush hour. And we were getting dropped off at Newark on Tuesday at 8 a.m.
Yeah, we didn't have any traffic.
Hardly hit any traffic going in, which was very surprising.
And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the New York airports, but so for Newark, my sister-in-law took us on the way back, and she goes, the one thing I don't like about this is like you think that you're there, but you're really not there. And so like it's all these like regular roads. So it's not like an airport road, where you kind of get off the exit and you're on the airport road. No, there's still more roads. And so it's confusing that way if you're not paying attention. Yeah. You still think you're on the highway and you're not, and you're actually on or going into the airport. But
so Scott asks, what airport do y'all like the best?
Well,
I wonder if we're going to have the same opinion on this, but
flying into New York or in general?
I would say in general. What did you think? What do you think is the nicest airport you've been in?
The nicest airport,
or that you like the best?
I mean, having a moose in the airport was kind of cool.
Oh, in Maine?
No, that was in Alaska. I will say
there was one in Maine too.
I will say this, that it's different now because I don't travel in and out of it as much as I used to. But when I was living in Fort Lauderdale Airport was awesome. When it was small, it was a little bigger than Asheville at the time. Okay. And so I remember I had a friend come in.
Now.
Yes, I had a friend come in, and within a half hour, I was in and out and back. Like it was like boom, boom, boom. And it's not like that now because it's been built up so much. But
Fort Lauderdale Airport still is not bad.
No,
I think it's a lot better than Miami.
Oh yeah, Miami.
as far as flying to South Florida for a cruise or something,
Fort Lauderdale is still
Fort
very
Lauderdale
easy
is
to
still is a
navigate.
whole lot easier to navigate.
Yeah.
I mean, we walked for 30 minutes on one
Oh
concourse
my God.
in Miami just to get to our connecting flight.
That was Miami?
That was Miami when we went to St. Martin this year. I mean,
oh yeah,
it was absurd. We're like, we got to get there eventually. But I mean, we were on, what was it, E or D or E terminal 60, and we had to get to like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
You think, okay, well, that shouldn't take you too long.
No,
it was like you'd have 5 gates, then you'd have 20 shops, and then you'd have 5 gates, and then you'd have a shopping mall,
and
it's
you go
like
this way,
and it's and it would split and send you all these different ways. You think, all right, well, I got to be saving time because they split off this whole section of the terminal.
And that was just one terminal.
That was just one terminal in Miami. We didn't see any other terminal.
Yeah.
But it was crazy.
And then, I'm kind of partial to Asheville, although right now growing pains are affecting Asheville. The parking is bad, and there's a terminal that they've been working on for a long time, and it's not open.
Right.
However, I mean, you can literally walk from one end to the other in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
it's not
takes nothing
big.
to get through it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Scott said, wow, we flew in and out of Fort Lauderdale. Thought it was pretty easy. Yeah, Fort Lauderdale's pretty easy. West Palm's not bad. As far as nice airports, one of the nicest
Greenville, South Carolina.
Greenville, South Carolina. That was probably one of the nicest airports we've been to.
I agree. I forgot about that one.
It's beautifully landscaped on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
You get inside, you get past security, and they have this garden area that you can just go out in.
You can sit down and have something to eat.
Have something to eat. And it's like, it's like, wow, I can actually go outside after security at an airport and sit and enjoy,
It was very nice. And it's not too big either.
Yeah, and it's fairly small.
We haven't flown out of there in a long time.
We haven't. I mean, unfortunately, what we would have to do, most of the time when we flew out of Greenville, we were taking a little commuter flight over to Charlotte. So, we drive an hour and a half to get to Greenville to save the extra hour and a half to get to Charlotte. So, life is good today says Asheville wasn't bad. Concord wasn't bad. Charlotte can be bad. Sometimes Fort Lauderdale is not bad. Miami can be chaotic. Yeah.
And so there's a couple things that I would like to add with the Charlotte and the Miami. Charlotte, we tend to go through Charlotte quite a bit just because it's convenient, because it's in the same
It's
state.
One of the hubs.
Yeah. And so, from Asheville to Charlotte, it's very popular. So,
yeah.
So I wouldn't say it's a bad airport. It's just big. You've got a lot of places to go and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing with Asheville. It wasn't bad. The bad part is that there's just so many people and it's just so congested. I think that would be why I would say it's not the best. And big airports like that, they're not the cleanest either.
Yeah.
But Miami. So yeah, we all know Miami is chaotic, but it's you're international. You come in. There's so many. It's just a plethora of services and things that you can do. But when so Corey and I did the global entry. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. It's kind of like TSA on steroids. Well, it's TSA for international.
TSA pre-check,
but it's international.
And then plus the international.
Because the global entry is the international.
Right.
And so we could not get an appointment to go and do this, right? And so we checked everywhere, and they were booked out for like a year almost, right?
Yeah, I mean, you look, and it's like there are no appointments available anywhere. And we checked every airport that we were flying into, and even Charlotte. Yeah. We drive to Atlanta, Knoxville, any place that we could get to.
So we were flying
there was nothing available.
Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
And we checked Miami, and wouldn't you know it, we can get a flight or we can get an appointment in Miami.
We can get an appointment in Miami on the day that we were flying into
So
Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, we rented a car
So
for a day, drove to Miami, and went to our appointment, which took, so by the time we drove to Miami, parked, found parking, walked all the way to where we needed to be, it took 5 minutes and we were done. And we're like,
right.
what the hell?
It's like,
and then that was it. And we got back in the car and we drove back. I was like,
right. It's like, okay.
So if anybody does want to do that, just, they're.
You think that, going through the whole global entry thing and you've got to have a face-to-face appointment, it's going to be something extensive, but it was really nothing.
It was 5 minutes.
I mean, they basically check your ID, take your picture or whatever it is.
They took our fingerprints too.
Fingerprints,
yeah, electronic.
And then it was done
as well. Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I think we paid $75 and $100, and it's good for 5 years.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and when you come back in the country, you got your special line that you go in.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to sit in there with everybody else from your flight.
And now TSA, everybody and their brother's doing it. So those lines are starting to get longer, but
they're starting to. Isn't Charlotte a hub for American? Yes, they are. Which is normally what ends up happening. We either,
because we fly American, we go to St. Martin. Probably 95+% of the time we are on American.
Because that's really our only choices where we are. For the most part, is
I used to like going on JetBlue.
Yeah.
From Fort Lauderdale, and if it didn't go straight, if you took a connecting flight, it would connect into San Juan. JetBlue.
Yeah.
American always connected through Miami.
So we'll have to.
Anyways, just in case anybody cares.
Does Groom Transportation operate out of Asheville? I have no idea.
I don't know what that is.
Don't even know what Groom Transportation is. So, unfortunately,
I'm sorry, we can't help you with that one.
But
Dallas is also a hub for American.
Yeah. And I think Atlanta is too, maybe. And Atlanta is a hub for a bunch of different airlines, but
yeah. And I think isn't Newark United? I think.
I don't know.
Anyway, yeah.
I'm not sure.
Some useless information.
Yeah. So every airport has got its airlines that it's a hub for. So a lot of Allegiant flights out of Asheville, though. So that's why we fly Allegiant.
Because they do the smaller airports.
Do the smaller airports.
They'll
and
go
direct
to St.
flights,
Pete
so.
direct. They'll go. I got to check and see if they go into White Plains.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. So they're a shuttle service for the Atlanta airport.
Oh, Delta.
Okay.
Atlanta's Delta. Very nice.
Oh, we should know that because when we got bumped from our flight in Alaska.
We didn't get. They changed it because we were not going to make our connecting flight. Yeah. So
we were on Alaska Air flying from Anchorage to Seattle and then Seattle to Atlanta.
Yeah.
And our Anchorage flight got delayed to the point where we weren't going to make our connecting flight to Atlanta. So
the ticket agent took it upon himself to try to change our flight and changed it to a different airline.
Yeah. They didn't have any way to accommodate us, and we were going to get stuck in Seattle overnight. So they worked some kind of deal with Delta and got us on the Delta direct flight from Anchorage to Atlanta.
Oh my God! So, but we were tired though.
They Alaskan Airlines saved our butts on that one.
They did, and so we can't say, "Oh, I've been on Alaska Air." No, but they really helped us, and they got us home.
True, because we were on, what was it, Windjet? Flying.
Is that what it's called?
Up to Vancouver?
Yeah.
Something like that. So.
Yeah.
Anyway. But yeah, I do miss those JetBlue days.
Yeah, that was when they had the little, now it's all different, but now they had the little TV in front of you, and.
Yeah. They probably don't do any of that anymore, but who knows?
Yeah, so the Allegiant flight that we were on yesterday had this little plastic band across the top of the seat.
Yeah, it didn't have the little mesh bag or anything like that.
So you had nowhere to put a water or your tablet or anything.
Nowhere to put anything.
What the heck?
Yeah. It had this little.
And they were all broken because everybody's shoving their shit and their stuff in there.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, it's got this little sign on it that says for literature only.
yeah,
You know,
not.
if you fly an Allegiant, they've got to have their credit card application up there and their little menu for tell you how much things are
Yeah,
and what you
yeah.
can order. But anyway,
Yeah.
all right. So,
do you have a favorite airline that you've been on?
I did like JetBlue when we flew on JetBlue.
I did too, but that was in the 90s. I flew it a lot, so I don't know how much
I
it's
haven't
changed
flown
now.
it in years, not since we lived in Florida.
And I got in a fight with Delta, and I haven't been on them since. And they put us on that flight. That was the first time in probably 20 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I
forgot what it was. Delta. I got really mad, and I'm like, I may be a little fish, but I am not flying you ever again. and I haven't. Now I would now, but
yeah,
I don't seek them out.
Right. So. All right. Well,
that was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. Interesting discussions about airports and such.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Oh, we got a question.
Does Allegiant have Boeings or Airbus planes? Don't know.
I think they're Airbus. They're small.
I'm not a big airplane buff to that degree, so I wouldn't know.
I would take a guess. I would take a guess at Airbus.
Yeah, they're all different. I mean,
not really.
Well, to some extent,
there's like 20 something rows, and you've got 3 seats on each side.
Yeah, I mean, well, the seating is about the same, but then you go to the bathrooms.
Oh, I didn't go to the bathroom.
I mean, that's the biggest place I notice a difference is
do share. Well, why is it different? This is important stuff.
In the one that we were on Tuesday, the bathrooms, I think there's only one bathroom in the front, and in the back, they've got 2 bathrooms, but they're like on the back wall.
Okay,
the back bulkhead wall, and instead of like split on either side, like you see them a lot of times before you get to the flight attendants area, you actually have to walk through the flight attendants area, and then they're like set 2 right next to each other, set off side by side.
I knew that there was one. I don't remember seeing 2.
And they were just kind of weird. Yeah, plane bathrooms are awful. Yeah. They tend to be.
Well, at least you guys can stand, and you don't have to take up too much room. Like, we don't. I mean,
it's not that easy. I mean, you do stand, but sometimes it's not that easy.
Well,
because they don't.
I mean, we squat because I mean, unless there's an emergency and you have to sit, that's not easy at all. Everything is wet and all. Yeah. You're right, Scott. Plain bathrooms are awful. We'll just leave it at that.
All righty. Well, anything else we got to talk about?
I'm still stuck on this, the bathroom, but in the plane.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, but at least they have one. It could be worse.
I don't pay attention to much. Just about as soon as I sit down, I put my earbuds in, noise canceling, and probably watching something on my iPad.
Yeah, and I'll be sitting there, and I'm like, okay, it's almost time to board, and I'll get up and go to the bathroom, and he goes, why do you always do that? And I'm like, because I try to wait till as long as I can wait so that I don't have to go on the plane. That's why I do it.
Well, at least in Newark, you did it like 10 minutes before we boarded.
I did. I wasn't.
Last flight we took, it was like, they start calling rows and you get up to go to the bathroom. I was like, why in the world do you wait to the last possible second? Then we're delayed boarding. But anyway. All right. Scott said I could barely close the door standing up. Yeah, I mean those bathrooms can be really tight.
They're very small.
and standing up trying to
I've had my ribs cramp once.
hit the
or
little
that
hole,
stomach.
and
because
you
of
can't bend
bending- oh,
forward because of
yeah.
the bulkheads and stuff. So
Yeah.
uh,
Fun stuff.
or you
Fun
can't
stuff.
step forward, I guess.
One good thing about this time flying is that we had our grandson with us, so we had the whole row.
Yeah,
That was very
That was
nice,
nice.
because Corey and I, neither one of us want to sit in the middle.
yeah.
And so we will sacrifice sitting next to each other to sit, and we'll get 2 aisles.
Yeah, a lot of
So we're
times
still
we'll get
next
2
to each
aisle
other, but
seats.
we're a little across from each other. But with my grandson, he's like, "Can I have the window seat?" Yes, you can have the window seat.
Hey, Chris, welcome in. Welcome in.
So that was kind of, and every time we took a bank, a 30-degree bank,
Yeah.
because we were circling the airport, Cameron would go, "Oh." he didn't like the whole thing of looking down and the when you get the little bumps in your stomach goes woo. He didn't like that. I was like, hey, no, it's like being
It's
on a
all
roller
right.
coaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he did enjoy it. He got to see the city skyline from afar.
He wanted to
from
see
across
New
the
York
river.
City so bad.
He did.
So just so y'all know, I'm announcing this now. We will be planning a trip to New York next year with Cameron to see New York for the first time.
Yeah.
New York City. And to do some tourist stuff that we've
gonna-
never done. So we that is talked about. It's not, and it's kind of in the works. It will happen. Just
Yeah.
we'll talk about it. So be on the lookout for that.
Scott said we had the front row to ourselves coming back from Las Vegas.
Oh,
So
that must have been nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I always like to find those flights where they're not completely full, and that was a surprising thing, is that neither one of our flights to and from Newark were full.
Everybody was afraid to go to Newark.
Oh yeah,
because my cousin flew into Philly because of that.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. So
I mean, Philly's a good ways away.
And so,
but
well,
I would think,
considering from my cousin's house, it was an hour and a half as opposed to 45 minutes. So.
Okay. I guess it's not that bad.
No.
But
now from my brother's, it's a lot further.
Yeah.
But so Cameron's favorite thing about this whole trip was, give me a drum roll, New York bagels. That was his favorite. Because I told him, I was like, oh, I got to get you a New York bagel. And he also had New York pizza too. It was cold when he ate it. But
oh, he had New York pizza?
That night, the first night we were there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There was some pizza left over, and he ate 2 slices. And I said, Peter, what are you again, look, I'm calling everybody all different names. I was like, Cameron, what are you doing? He goes, hey, Peter said I can have it. I was like, all right. Yeah. And so we gave him a New York bagel, and then he was like, oh, I got to bring these home, and like made this whole big thing about the bagels. So I said, when I asked him his favorite thing, he was like, it's the bagels. And I said, Cameron, people they just don't understand. They don't understand the bagels. They are so good. Like, I even ate a bagel.
They're pretty good.
I don't eat bagels usually, but I ate a bagel.
They came out fresh too.
Oh yeah. So we went that morning. We were driving back to the Tuesday morning. They were in the bag. They were warm in the bag.
Yeah. We stopped at a little deli.
Oh my God.
The deli that you grew up with.
Oh my God. I was in nursery school going to that deli. That's how, I'm in my 50s, y'all. So it's 50 years, almost 50 years that deli's been there. Yeah. And actually one of my best friends, brother-in-law owns it. Yeah.
Very cool stuff. Yeah.
We used to call it the hot deli.
The hot deli?
Yeah.
Why?
Let's go to the hot deli. Because when we were growing up and in high school and all that, there was all high school and college kids that worked at the deli.
Okay.
It was the hot deli.
All right.
Just saying.
All right. I think we've run our mouths for long enough.
Yeah. No more about the hot deli.
Yeah. There's not much more to say about Newark other than they need to work on it, and they need to do some maintenance around there, because it's kind of ridiculous to have that many restrooms and that many escalators and people movers and everything else just shut down, broken. So anyway,
Chris is
Chris
looking for
says,
the video,
looking
that's
forward
all.
to our video on Saturday. Yep.
Yeah.
It's it's from Helen, Georgia.
Oh, whoop, whoop.
So if you haven't seen the any of the meetup videos, we've got one coming this Saturday from the 5th annual Helen, Georgia meetup.
Yeah.
That's going to be premiering 8 something. Not sure what time yet. On Saturday evening. So, all right, guys.
Well, without further ado, thank y'all for coming in. We really appreciate the support that you guys give us.
Yeah. Thanks for
And,
coming
have
out.
fun talking about this stuff. And
Yep.
I think we're going to call it a night.
I think so. So, guys, from Teaks to Tides.
We'll see you on the next ride.
Bye, guys. You guys have a great night too. We will see you next Wednesday. Same time, same place.
Talking about something
Something different. I talk about the Jeep Fest we got coming up.
Oh, that's right. On Friday.
All right. Bye, guys.